Okay, Alison, I'm going to turn it over to you, and the recording's in progress.
Okay, well, thank you, Peter. Um, I think that I'm dealing today with the, gosh, community and public dimensions. This morning, I'm doing kind of a practice 6 on my fundraising efforts for EcoFaith. And I'm going to start out with a confession. I like confessions. They're part of a good faith life. And also, a lot of the books that I like are full of confessions. So I've been with EcoFaith for 8 years. I hate to say that this is the first time I've actually engaged in fundraising. All I did in the past was increase my monthly donation a bit, and I'm not very proud of that. I'm turning a new leaf. Here's what motivated me. And when we're in a volunteer context, it probably matters. What did motivate us to get involved with fundraising? Robin and Janet were honest about the stress that they were going through in those, final week between Christmas and New Year's. I believe that Janet was frank about saying this is no way to live with all of this stress of trying to make the budget. These are my friends. I can't let them be alone with that kind of stress. I need to pull my weight. So something that I've learned in 65 years of church life, and about half that many years somehow involved with nonprofit world, it's clear to me that not just giving, but inviting people to give is foundational to these organizations that do good in the world. And for me to not participate in that is for me to hide and withhold myself and not be truly present. That's where I've landed. So I'm going to give this really brief story from a book called Moral Ambition that I really recommend. And the author asks, what was the one common denominator between all of the people, I think it was Switzerland, who illegally housed Jews in Nazi Germany to keep them from being sent to concentration camps where they would almost certainly die? What do they have in common? Were they churched people? Did they have some certain income level? So it turns out the only thing these people had in common is that they were asked to house Jewish people. And that was the magic thing. So I decided that I would be asking a wide variety of my friends to give. So I did this in two different ways. And one was handwritten letters. And I personalized each of my handwritten letters. These were to friends and family who were out of state, who wouldn't be able to come to my party. And I personalized them. I did use some of the same material about PSEP and how we, helped to be a part of raising 587 million for wonderful projects. And then I threw this past Saturday, many of you got to come, a birthday party, activism, fundraising party. Apologies. I did not invite every single person from EcoFaith. I was trying to really get new people into the room who weren't familiar with EcoFaith. And I served a catered dinner. And this is a key part of the story, I think. I created a mingling quiz. I got factoids from each person who would be attending about some activist thing that they'd done in their lives. And then people interacted and they wanted to find out who were the answers, to all of these different things that people had done in their lives, whether it was civil disobedience or there was a really goofy story about somebody who was a teenager had gone on strike to create a smoking area in their high school. So it was all these different quirky things that got people engaging with each other. Okay, so I did an ask, and I really prepared that ask. And in fact, I was actually still preparing it in the middle of the party. I was sneaking upstairs and writing down some final sentences. Um, had a microphone. You need to be heard. Here's what I've learned about not just asks for money, but asks for anything, volunteering, getting people to engage. You have to follow up. And so as I'm following up, both with the people who didn't happen to give at the party, some did, some didn't, and then with the handwritten letters, what I have to do is sort of set my emotion aside. And I just need to kind of re-invite them, supply the QR code, got to make it easy. It needs to be a smooth path for people to give. I'm observing that people who are churched, they find it normal to give, is part of life. And for some people, giving is quite foreign to them. And I need to accept that. And I need to not get overly invested. Chris and I are doing this. I think it's a kind of a model. When one of my friends does follow through and give, I simply learn from Chris that they've given. I don't learn about individual donation amounts. There's no reason for me to. It does help me to learn about the overall amount of donations that I've raised. And then including with the match, I feed that information back to the people I'm following up with because people are very influenced by what their peers are doing, even without any knowledge of how much money exactly their peers are giving. There's momentum that's built when I report in a follow up email. I've raised so far well over $2,000, including match. And it helps them to know that, oh, this is what you do. Giving is what you do here. The final thing that I'll say is that, well, two final things. There's this topic in my life, a theme in my life of mutuality. And some of my history in my life is that I sometimes try too hard. And I sometimes do that in my relationships. Sometimes I overgive in a variety of ways. And so there's a lot of people who I'm doing Ask For where I've given to them in a variety of ways. They're not obligated to give back. And I remind myself they're not obligated. However, if we're not having a very mutual relationship, I've learned to contain my energy a little bit more, to realize, okay, together you set the level in a relationship and you take cues from each other. Minute for minute, in terms of my efforts, it's more efficient, I think, to do the handwritten letters, phone calls, and emails too. The context is that Thor and I throw parties routinely. And so it's a normal thing for us to do. It'd be perfectly possible to do a much simpler party than I did. Face to face, you're getting people much more engaged with what eco faith is than if you're not face to face. A lot of you know that I'm biased towards face to face. If you want to just be efficient with your fundraising, I would recommend some combination of handwritten letters, follow up phone call or text, and an email, and just making it easy for people to give and letting them know why. I've been volunteering with EcoFaith for 8 years. I've been a monthly donor all that time. And people need to hear the heartfulness of, I think, our own commitment because it helps them to realize why they might want to give too. This book, I don't know if you can see it, The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist, it helped me to learn years ago how money is a way that we can align with our deepest values. And giving and inviting other people to give can be a very joyful thing, a heartful, values driven thing that's not enough a part of our everyday lives. So these are just some of my thoughts. And I look forward to hearing other people's thoughts about fundraising and what doing the ask means to them. Thanks.